And sadly, if you look at what's happening around this country and the way that kids are being taught in schools, they're not being taught that way, which is very, very sad. One of the reasons that I'm running the race, and my name is Kevin Hayslett, a little background, I am from this place where we stand, Pinellas County. My parents, who are here tonight, came here in 1964. My dad came here. When he came here, he was the 8th dentist north of Ungleton Road. When he came here, he was told, we have enough dentists, the park's full, we don't need any more, we're done, we don't need more. True story, true story. And he is still a practicing dentist.
Oh my goodness.
My mom is not much of a go-getter. She is a nurse, she is a realtor, she's a dental hygienist, and she's a school teacher. True story. She worked in my dad's office as a hygienist. She was a substitute school teacher here when we were younger. She worked at Largo Med and at Morton Plant. And then she decided to sell real estate while we were in high school to keep the kids going. So that's my upbringing. I've been married for 31 years. And my wife is sitting here in the red t-shirt, Melissa Harding Hayslett. And she grew up about 7 miles from here, maybe less. She went to school at a place called Ozona Elementary. I don't know if you've heard of the place. Have you heard of it, Ozona Elementary? Your kids went there? Then she went to Palm Harbor Middle School. And then she went to Tarpon High. So one of the things that's happened in this race is as we meet and talk to groups north of the Union line, people tell us, the Union line here at Dunedin, I said, hi, I'm Kevin Hayslett, I'm running for Congress. They go, oh, no, 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 no. Gus is for us. And I go, no, no, there's this thing called redistricting. He's farther, no, no, no. Gus is for us. So part of your job in coming here tonight is to educate your brethren and sisters and explain to them there's a new district. I'm fortunate enough to live in this district my entire life. I went to Clearwater High. I'm a product of the public school system. I went to undergrad at Furman University, and it was so interesting. I'm sitting here in this crowd, and one of the guys that I started freshman year in college, his mom's in the back of the room, so I'm going to pick on you, Miss Shamp. She's here. And so did that, and then I came back after law school, and I started as a prosecutor. Those that remember this district understand prior to Bernie McCabe and Bruce Bartlett, the state attorney was James T. Russell. If you're here long enough, he ruled this county with an iron fist. He was a very hard-nosed prosecutor. He hired me in 1987. That year, when I started as a young prosecutor, I tried and prosecuted more trials than anybody in the history of the office. I've tried over 250 jury trials. I was a trial lawyer, then started my own practice. We moved it from 3 lawyers to over 20 lawyers in 6 locations. I built a business. My wife and I started a real estate investment program on the side. We've done that. We're part owners of a restaurant. We are deeply rooted in this community. We've got 3 boys. My oldest is getting married, as I was sharing the story, to a gal who went to Vanderbilt. I had to share that story here for the pastor. They're getting married in September. He works in New York City in finance. Our middle son went to the U.S. Naval Academy. He is currently in Virginia Beach and is being moved to Coronado, where he will partake in the SEAL program. Our youngest son is at West Point, and he is going to branch as an infantry officer, and that'll be next year. We felt as a family we have and believe strongly in duty. We believe in service. We believe in giving back. We've sat living this in the community, besides raising our children and being involved in the community and working on our businesses. That took up 99% of our time. And last fall, I had an opportunity to meet one of the candidates who's not here. And I asked the local folks here in the party, is that our candidate? And I decided, like my kids and like my family, that I needed to get into service. I made the decision, got in the race in January. Since I've gotten the race, because I'm from here, I've met with folks that people had an opportunity to speak to beforehand, and Bob Gualtieri, who's the sheriff, endorsed my candidacy. Now, I've known Bob for 30 years. I knew him when I was a young prosecutor and he was a deputy. He said, why don't you talk to our buddy that we've dealt cases in statewide prosecution with, Grady Judd, and Grady endorsed me. And then Mike Pendergast, the North, endorsed me. And then today, a good friend who worked in my law firm as a youngster, and then as a prosecutor, and then as a legislature, Chris Sprawls endorsed me. So I've had an opportunity to have relationships, not as a politician, but as someone who is a community insider, but political outsider. I've never run for office, ever. But like many of you who sat here and felt that our country is absolutely going in the wrong direction, I felt compelled to run. As my wife said, how can we sit on the sidelines when you said to our children, they needed to serve this country? How can you turn your back right now? So in January, I stopped practicing. I do this full time. We eat in a lot more. I've actually gained weight because I'm eating on the road here. But my point is this. This is a moment, a defining moment in our country where good citizens are stepping up to the plate and running for office, and I believe I'm one of them. What do I believe in? Number one, strong borders. I've got the most aggressive policy, I think, of probably the country. I've been criticized for it. I say shut the entire border down, totally. No one gets in, not a single person. It's not fair to the people that came here legally. It's almost like immigration inflation. They went through jumped through the hoops, did what they needed to do, and they're watching when people walk in, given a cell phone, told to come back 8 months later, and they don't show up. 2 weeks ago, our sheriff caught someone on the watch list. On the watch list, our sheriff had to arrest him because the FBI let him roam this country for 2 weeks when they were found out earlier he was wanted for murders outside Bogota, Colombia. He was on the FBI watch list, and they allowed him to roam this country. That's where we're going wrong. Number two, inflation. You can't print money forever and expect. The Democrats kind of scratch their head and go, how did this happen? Are you kidding me? When they closed the Keystone Pipeline, the next day, oil prices went up. Don't listen to what they're saying. The other issue we have is strong law enforcement. Obviously, I'm backed by every law enforcement in town. When people were telling us the summer of love, it was no love involved. There were no peaceful protests, and we as a country need to stand up and push back. We need to have national ID for elections. It's not that complicated. 80% of the country, 80% of the people in the United States agree with that concept. They agree with that concept. With our young people, we absolutely need to push back on CRT. Whoever came up with the concept that the teachers know better how to raise our children than the parents is clearly wrong. Clearly wrong. So when we look at the country, look what's happening, and we find out the direction we're going, I felt compelled to come in and provide answers, to provide leadership, to use my experience, 34 years as a businessman building a practice, the 6 years as a prosecutor, the time that I built a real estate business and my other investments. I've hired people, I've fired people, I've negotiated insurance, I've had to navigate healthcare. That's difficult. And I've signed on the front of the check, not the back of the check. It's my belief that if you're going to get involved in politics, like our forefathers, you need to show excellence in some area before you provide public service. When you go into public service and you get a pay raise, not a pay cut, that's not service. So I believe that someone from here, like Gus, went to high school with my wife, and like myself, who graduated Clearwater High, go Tornadoes, and someone who has roots. My grandparents are buried here. My grandparents are buried here. My parents aren't buried yet. They'll be very upset if I say that. My grandparents are buried here. My parents are here. My sister is here. My brother is here. When my kids have grandkids, I will drag them and make them be raised here. And I want the opportunity to earn your trust and respect to lead you in Washington, D.C. Thank you, guys.